down. An agent needs assistance. Vital signs critical.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry for the language. Can you toss me a reviver hide?
What the hell? Stay here. I'll go check it out.
I'm in. Main entrance is clear.
What's up, agents? How y'all doing? Hope everybody's being as safe as you need to be, hanging in there. So today, I want to bring you guys a more in-depth build guide. I know we've been doing the summarized build guide series, like the 5-minute build guide series thing. I thought that's initially what this might be, but I wanted to revisit the rigger gear set. This has been out in the game for a while now, and you don't see a lot of play with it. Every once in a while you see somebody using it, you're going to go, okay, that's a thing. Why? And so I thought I would actually do some in-depth testing and see why. Is there a reason to use this? Is there a utility that we can't get through another build, another gear set, brand sets, or any other way? What is appealing about the rigger gear set? So this is a bit longer of a video. I do have some good old solid numbers that I came up with. Quite a few different build variations you may want to try if you want to try the set. So there is timestamps down below. Before we get into this, do me a favor, guys. Smash that like button. Hopefully by the end of this video, I will earn your subscription if I don't already have it. The best way you can help me is to share this video. All right, thank you so much, guys. Without further ado, let's get into the build. All right, before we get into the micro aspects of the build, let's just quickly go over the rigger gear set. So the two-piece will give us 15% skill haste. While this seems okay, if we had two pieces of gear, we could simply roll 12% skill haste on each. So technically, we could get 24% skill haste from two pieces of gear, and this gives us 15. All right, we're not looking so hot right out the gate, but bear with it. Let's move on to the three-piece. The three-piece, we get 15% duration. That is amazing. I could throw on Murakami and get 20% duration from one piece. So, yeah. But hey, let's get into the four-piece. Well, that gives us the Tend and Befriend. So this is actually a pretty cool perk, right? For a four-piece, we get 25% bonus damage to each of our skills, provided that we actually proc the perk. So what are the different methods that we have to proc Tend and Befriend? Well, using or deploying a skill will proc it, so this will give you 10 seconds of the buff. If you have a skill that you're able to change targets, when the buff is... First of all, the buff cannot be refreshed. You have to wait for the duration to go down. Luckily, changing targets doesn't cancel the buff. You'll still have the buff. It's just you have to have another target that you can change to in order to reproc the buff. Another way that you can do this is by healing it, and as we'll see with the specialization, the armor kit for the technician will actually heal all skill proxies in the area, so you could actually use this as a kind of cheap way to cause the buff to happen. This is great actually for single targets. If you're seeing like the boss fight at the end of Union District Arena on Legendary, right? Everybody else is dead, and then you got a 3 to 20 minute fight depending on your team. This is a way, if you don't have a way to switch targets, you can pop a med kit, and that would give you that 10 seconds free. I don't know if it's worth it, but something to keep in mind. Now, that 25% bonus we get is pretty good. I mean, that's, you know, up there with some of the other perks we have. But we can add to that by using the chest talent. Best Buds will add another 25%. So this will yield you 50% bonus damage. While that sounds like a high number, there are ways to actually get higher numbers than that. And in no circumstances can I actually recommend that you run the Best Buds perk. We'll get into more of that when we get into the chest talents. The other option you have for the backpack is the complete uptime perk. This is actually very interesting. Any skill that you cancel on your own, it will automatically reset that skill. Now the caveat is if you reach the maximum duration of your skill and your skill gets canceled on its own, you have to wait the full duration. Canceling the other skill will not reset that skill time. And in addition, in like say the case of the drone where it tends to be shot down a lot, if your drone is actually shot down, you have to wait the full duration. So if you notice your drone is getting low on health and you decide to go with the complete uptime backpack, I highly recommend that you cancel your drone so that it automatically resets. Otherwise, you will be stuck waiting the full duration or the full cooldown. All right, we'll talk a bit more about how these work and how they synergize with other perks in a bit. Now let's move on to the specialization. So we're going to go with Technician. This will give us quite a few benefits. First of all, it gives us the Amped, which is a +1 skill tier. This allows us to run something like a Bellstone Armory piece for the Armor Core if you wanted some bonus survivability, which is what I recommend. You could also choose to run a Weapon Core in one of the slots if you want to do a little bonus weapon damage. You will get the bonus of the Faraday Field. So this means in this build, we're using the turret. So anybody within 5 meters of the turret cannot be shocked or disrupted. This could also work in conjunction with some other skills. Maybe you want to run a turret and a Stinger Hive or something like that for some area denial around you. Both of those would effectively give the Faraday Field. You do get the benefits of this Dismantle perk, 12% bonus to robotics and opponent skill proxies and stuff. And basically anything that's not organic matter from the enemy, you'll do that 12% bonus damage. This is additive, so end game with everything maxed, it's still about a 4%, 4 to 5% damage bonus, so it is something. We're going to choose to go with the Overclock CPU for another bonus 10% skill damage. We get access to the Link Laser Pointer, so this gives you the benefit of being able to pulse targets if you're using this pointer. Certain weapons are able to use it, and one of the main weapons we're going to be using will take it. If you decide to go with the Spotter perk, this works for great benefit. If one of your teammates wants to run Spotter, you can effectively pulse enemies for them as well. And lastly, as we've already mentioned, if you're in a crunch and you need to get some bonus damage from the rigged gear set, what you can do is use the armor kit, which will heal all proxies in the area, and this will then, of course, give them that bonus damage of Tend and Befriend, provided they are damaged. If you heal a skill that's already at maximum health, it will not get the benefit. All right. Next, we're going to talk about the skills. This is based off the Astrone build, so we're going to be using the Assault Turret, the Striker Drone. And a bit later, we'll get into some base numbers. But to give you guys an idea of what you're going to be looking at, you'll be looking at a range of 67 to about 82,000 damage for your Striker Drone, and somewhere between about 105,000 to about 130,000 with your turret. Now, once you start adding in sync, any of the extra bonuses like glass cannon and all this, these numbers will go up. We'll cover what some of those final numbers are here in a bit. So, Striker Drone and Assault Turret. The one other thing you may want to do if you want to do more of an AFK sort of build is you can go with the turret and the Stinger Hive. This means turret will take care of all the long range stuff, and if anybody decides to creep up on you, you got your Stinger Hive. I prefer the Striker Drone and the turret though. All right, next we're going to talk about the gear and brand sets. Obviously, we've gone over the rigged gear set already. So let's go ahead and talk about the brand sets. We're in any iteration of this build, since you only need 4 pieces, you're going to have 2 additional gear slots left. And so it's all about how you mix and match them. So you could do combos like Wyvern and Empress International. These give you the 10% skill damage from the Wyvern, the skill health from the Empress International. You could do Wyvern and hana-u for skill damage and skill haste. You could do 2 hana-us for skill haste and skill damage. You could do 2 Empress International for skill health and skill damage. If you want to mix it up and get some armor in there, you can do a Wyvern and a Bellstone because we have the amped. That way it'll give you an armor core and it will give you some armor regen on top of it. And lastly, if you wanted to stick some weapon damage in there, you might do something like a Fenris to give you some assault rifle damage, or maybe Badger Tough, which will give you the armor core and give you the bonus shotgun damage. Really up to you and what you want to run. I tend to just run a Wyvern piece because I know that that's going to net me my skill damage. It also gives me the choice of running an exotic. So to quickly touch on the exotics before we get into the talents, there's 2 exotics that I find slot into this really well. You could run the Waveform holster. This will give you the skill damage from that, and then you get that alternating current, which will give you 30% skill damage that bounces back and forth. When split between 2 skills, it's essentially a 15% skill damage bonus across the board. So a great buff to your damage without you having to do anything at all. The other option, and maybe a better one because it's probably the best exotic piece of gear in the game, is the Memento backpack. You can use this to buff your weapon core, your armor core. It gives you some armor regen. It'll buff your skill efficiency. I mean, the Memento is an amazing piece. The only downside to Memento is there's some ramp up. You got to get your kills, get your kill confirmed trophies to ramp it up. And if you're in a group, it's hard because you actually have to get the kill. If your teammate gets a kill, if you do 99% of your damage, your teammate gets the kill shot, you don't get the trophy. So that kind of sucks. It's still highly effective in a group, don't get me wrong, but it really shines solo. So if you're in a group, I'd probably just go with the Waveform if you're going to run one of the builds with the exotic. Just to maximize your damage, and you don't have to worry about as much utility because you have teammates that will hopefully be covering the roles that you would be hoping to fill with the Memento backpack. Alright, so as far as the chest talents, we're going to go from best to worst. Basically, Glass Cannon trumps all. You're going to do more damage with Glass Cannon. Of course, you have to have your gameplay locked down. You got to know what you're doing. You're going to take 50% damage from all sources, so it is a liability, but this will maximize your damage. If you want to be a little bit safer, and we're going to be deploying our skills and theoretically leaving them out there a lot of the time, you could go with kinetic momentum. Well, the downside is we're kind of using the rig, so depending on how you run it, you might actually be moving your skills a lot. If you're using complete uptime, you'll be destroying them a lot. So kinetic momentum may not be active as much as you would want it to because it has the ramp up time, but this will net you 30% bonus skill damage because it'll be 15% per skill. Right? So this actually will be better than using the Best Buds chest talent. So if you were thinking about using the Best Buds, and we'll get to that in a second, it's only 25%. So kinetic momentum is still technically more damage. After that, I would probably go with Spotter, since you can use a weapon with the Link Laser Pointer. This will give you a multiplicative 15%. So it'll be a 1.15 multiplied damage bonus after all the other numbers. So this is still going to be better, and it applies your weapon and your skill damage, not just your skill damage like the rig or gear set does. So the last chest piece talent I would recommend would be Overwatch. You think, well, Overwatch only nets me a 12% damage bonus, but that is to your skills and your weapon damage, and that's also to all of your teammates. So if you're running in a team of 4 people, you got to realize you're actually giving a lot more overall damage running Overwatch than even, say, running Spotter or Kinetic Momentum, because your teammates will all get that bonus damage as well. And last is the Best Buds chest piece, which I just do not recommend running. If that's what you guys have to go work with, great, but I would still be looking for one of these other talents. And if you're a good enough player, of course, just go with Glass Cannon. So let's move on to the backpack talents. Backpack, really simple. Just use tech support for the 25% skill damage bonus when you kill an enemy, If you don't want to have to rely on getting a kill, if you're running in a group, you can go with combined arms. That will also give you 25% bonus. If you want a little more bonus and you don't mind running hana-u, if you're running, say, the 2 pieces of hana-u for the skill haste skill damage, you could go with the force multiplier backpack with perfect combined arms. This will net you 30% damage bonus from the backpack. This is the highest damage bonus you will get from the backpack. Now, of course, if you're running the Memento, you'll be getting the kills confirmed. And after that, the only other thing to consider is the actual complete uptime backpack for the rig gear set. So that way you can try to always have your skills. Of course, again, I reiterate, keep an eye on the health of your skill, because if it gets shot down and destroyed, you will have to wait the full duration. So just make sure you actually cancel your skill before they get destroyed or the duration ends. If you don't do it, you're just going to be stuck waiting, and that kind of defeats the purpose of the build. Now, one other quick thing to note is if you want a little bit more survivability, you could try throwing in Bloodsucker. Every kill you get will give you 10% bonus armor for 10 seconds. This does stack up. And while it says it stacks up to 10, in reality, and checking all the testing we've done, it stacks to 20. You can get up to 200% of your armor as bonus armor. Now, you got to be in a perfect situation with a lot of enemies to kill over and over again, but it is possible to do it. All right, everybody's favorite time. Let's go ahead and talk about weapons. The capacitor. Duh. All right, so capacitor real quick. Go to the summit, do 5 challenges. You get the capacitor, easy peasy. Best weapon for any skill build in the game. Almost, few exceptions. You get into some status effect stuff. I digress. Use the capacitor. All right, what are we going to talk about? Oh, and if you don't have the capacitor yet and you're trying to do this build, use any weapon with in sync. Use the test subject or the harmony for perfectly in sync. Test subject cannot use the link laser pointer. That kind of sucks. The harmony can. Moving on, though. The main weapon that I use, and I keep it in my hand all the time, is the mop. Has 12% damage to armor. Every kill you get 10% of your armor back. We rolled in sync on it, so we can basically immediately proc a 30% skill damage buff and weapon damage buff. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the mop. In my opinion, one of the best weapons in the game from the utility of having that armor back per kill. As far as the sidearm goes, I always go with the backup boomstick with Future Perfect. If I have an enemy within range who's low on health, I could try to get a free overcharge out of this. It's kind of cool. In reality, I almost never use it, but it looks really, really cool in the build. Another option you have, if you want to get really crazy, you're going to be doing more of an AFK sort of build, you could elect to go with the Card TDI Custom. This will give you +1 skill tier. You can roll in sync on it, and between this and the amp, that would allow you to run 2 armor cores, 2 weapon cores, or an armor core and a weapon core, and still be at skill tier 6. It's kind of a niche play style and all that. Back in the day when the Card TDI first came out, we did a bunch of builds with it. It is an awesome weapon. It just doesn't lend to the play style of this build very well, but if you wanted to try to play that way, you could. Maybe even stick a DNH piece of gear on it, because that gives you +20% pistol damage. And hell, dude, it actually might be pretty cool. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys give it a shot and you guys think it's fun, let us know in the comments. Just some other quick exotics. If you don't want to run the capacitor, you want to have a little more fun, you could use something like the Scorpio, right, for the status effects and the debuff, the 20% bonus damage you can let your whole team do to an enemy if you get all those shots landed. You could roll with something like the Bullet King if you wanted to give ammo back to your team. We're a little squishy in this build, so I probably wouldn't recommend that because you got to land 100 bullets, I think, to give ammo back. But another interesting idea would be run something like the Bighorn, where you got an auto rifle, but then you scope in and you have a sniper rifle. So, you know, you'll have an AR, a sniper rifle, and a shotgun all within 2 weapons. So, kind of cool. But I recommend running the capacitor and the mop, my opinion. Alright, so let's talk about what some viable build versions are. You know, I tested a lot of different variations, mixing and matching the brand sets, the positions, the exotics, the different talents and all that. And there's only a few that I feel like are really endgame viable that you would, say, take into a legendary mission and not feel like you're handicapping yourself. I think one of our most viable options would be the Rigger gear set 4-piece. We would want to go something like hana-u and Wyvern for the skill haste, skill damage. 2 pieces of hana-u for the skill haste, skill damage. We would want to go with glass cannon on the chest piece, and you could either go with tech support, or you'd probably go with perfect combined arms, because you get that 30% damage bonus. But if you want a more lazy gameplay, just go with tech support. You get that 25% bonus for 20 seconds, and it's really easy to use. Now, another one that might be even a little more fun to play would be to run the 4-piece rigger with the backpack for complete uptime and the waveform chest piece. So we'd run Wyvern with glass cannon on the chest, the backpack complete uptime. You'd run the mask, the gloves, and the knee pads as the rigger gear set, and then the waveform holster. This will give you that bonus weapon damage. You get the glass cannon damage, and provided you're keeping an eye on your skills, you will always have all of your skills up all the time. So that can be pretty fun. And if you're doing kind of a group build where you're just hanging back and you want to have your skills out there and kind of an AFK, that would be pretty cool. Now, if I had to actually pick what the best version to run is, and this is more of a solo version, but it would be the 4-piece rigger with the Wyvern chest piece, glass cannon, and the Memento backpack. And this is simply for the amount of utility that we get. I mean, you get that weapon damage, you get the bonus armor for picking up the trophies, you get the armor regen, the long-term buff, we get the skill efficiency, and both the weapon and the skill efficiency, we get the bonus to that for the 10 seconds or whatnot every time we pick up a trophy. So we get to double dip quite a bit as well. So this gives us a lot of utility, and the fact we get the skill damage, the survivability, and the bonus weapon, bonus skill damage. The downside I will note is that when we actually look at it on paper, because the Memento backpack, we don't get the skill damage as one of the attributes. There's no attributes. We just get weapon core, right? And we have no way of adding a damage buff to it. It actually is a little bit less damage than some of the other builds that we're capable of using, but the amount of utility that you make up for with your weapon damage, your armor regen, and the bonus armor is not a big deal, but really the weapon damage you get and that armor regen, I think more than makes up for the little bit of loss in skill damage that you sustain going with the Memento. So I highly recommend the Memento build solo. If you're running a group, I recommend the Waveform with the glass cannon chest piece, going complete uptime. That way you make sure you always have your skills up. Before we go any further, let me give you my opinion. What does the rigger gear set give us that we can't get someplace else? The way that Hardwire works, and being able to basically deploy a skill and reset our other skills, it would basically be what the complete uptime is. We just have to make sure that we always have a skill out, but we can basically mitigate cooldowns through Hardwire. And that also would give us, it's only a 10% damage bonus, I believe, that we get from Hardwire, so it'd be a little less that way. But the point being is the rig gear set, from what I can tell, does not bring us anything that we couldn't get earlier with Hardwire, and certainly that we can't get running the proper high-end builds and maybe mixing in some exotics. The only pro that I could really tell you about the rig gear set is the fact that it's easy to farm. You just do the target farming and go farm it and roll skill damage onto it, and it's every piece is a perfect piece, unless you're looking for a piece like my gloves where I rolled the armor, I rolled the skill damage, the skill tier into armor. There's nothing it gets us, and ultimately it's not even as much damage. Well, let me quickly talk about the cons. Okay, so we have less armor regen than we can get in quite a few other variations of the Astron build. Substantially less armor regen. We have substantially less skill haste that we can get. Now, with the backpack, the complete uptime, it mitigates that. So we'll give it that. But overall, unless you're using the backpack, you have significantly less skill haste that we can get in a high-end build or some other variations. We do get that 15% duration, but remember, simply running one piece of Murakami, we get that 20% duration. And let's face it, duration is not one of the big deals. We're more concerned with our skills staying alive. If I have to choose between Murakami or the Empress for the skill health, I'll go with the skill health to keep my skills alive that much longer to hopefully get the kill. Really, the other thing is the fact that you always have to be paying attention to the rigged damage bonus. The Tend and Befriend takes a lot of conscious thought. I don't want to have to think about keeping my damage buffs up. I want damage buffs that just work. This is where Glass Cannon shines. All I got to do for Glass Cannon is play like I normally would. Try not to die. As long as I'm trying not to die, I'm doing more damage than any buff is going to get me. So I don't need to be concentrating on, oh, I got to change this target, I got to change this target, oh, I got to blow up the skill, I got to deploy a skill, I got to do this. I just want to play the game. And one of the biggest disadvantages I found is when you're fighting single targets, you can't retarget a skill. One thing that I did find, actually, here's something you can do. You can pick up your turret and put it back out, okay? So that will technically reproc it. In your drone, I think you could double tap and have your drone start coming to you and retarget, and that would probably do it. So you can get around that, but again, then it falls into the, man, how much micromanaging of this build do I have to do to make it work when another talent would just do more damage anyway? You know what I mean? All right, so just going over some raw numbers. All right, guys, so the Rigger 4-piece with a Wyvern chest piece and Glass Cannon will net us a base of 71,000 damage, and if we add in the buffs, including in sync, you'll hit about 142,000 damage. The turret, which starts at a base of 113,000, will get up to about 228,000 when we get all the buffs proc. So that's the Rigger with the Wyvern and tech support and Glass Cannon. Now, if we go with the 4-piece rigged gear set with the Wyvern Glass Cannon, the Memento backpack, the drone starts at 67,000 but will ramp up to 139k. The turret will start at 107,000 and ramp up to 223k. So that's a little less than the Rigger 4 with the tech support and Glass Cannon, but we get a crazy amount of utility and we're doing bonus weapon damage. So that's where I say, like, the Memento just wins out there. So if we go full DPS build, which is a Wyvern, 2 hana-u with perfect combined arms, 3-piece Empress International, skill damage maxed out, your drone will have a base damage of 82,000 and you can ramp it up to 151.5 thousand. Our turret will have 131k and will max out at 242k. So this is where it gets really fun. So that's the full high-end gear and what seems like it should be the most damage that we can get. However, as soon as we put on the God mode, which we have the Bellstone and the Waveform on here, the crazy thing is the actual base damage, we only have 78k base damage on the drone, but we pump that up to 155k. So of all the different builds, the God mode actually reaches that top. And then our turret is hitting, we have a base of 128, and that ramps all the way up to 249k. So the God mode build actually hits a little higher DPS than the full DPS high-end build. So food for thought. And that, of course, is because of the Waveform exotic holster is giving us that bonus damage there. Now, the interesting thing is, and this is what it comes down to, so this is going to be my final opinion. So, is the Rigger gear set worth using? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The God mode Astrone build is still the highest DPS with full-on sustained and just, it's super easy. You don't have to think about it. You just post up, start shooting shit until you take enough damage where you take some cover, let your armor regen and your armor on kill, heal you back up and start shooting again. Easy as that. But even the green to gold build will put out as much damage, and literally we're talking about the Rigger with tech support, Glass Cannon, and Wyvern was maxing out the drone at 142k. the green to gold kill will hit 141.5. It's basically the same damage. The turret was hitting 228. The green to gold hits 226.5. There's essentially no damage drop off using green, blue, and purple gear. So the point is, it's all about the build, using the right gear sets, brand sets, and just being good at the build. The rigger, I think the rig gear set it's a liability. I mean, it can be cool, it can be fun to use something that nobody else uses, but from a practical standpoint, I can no way get behind this. I did a lot of testing, and overall, my opinion is a big fat thumbs down. But on that note, agents, I hope you guys give me a big fat thumbs up. On the way out, do me a favor, guys. Smash that like button if you haven't. Hopefully by now, I have earned your guys' subscription. Do me a favor, best thing you can do to help my channel is share this video. You guys all be as safe as you need to be. Thank you so much. I will catch you, agents, in the dark zone.
An agent needs
Dude,
assistance.
why does it not... Motherfucker. Shit. Sorry for the language. Can you toss me a reviver high?